I think sir had joined. Hello. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Just give me a couple of minutes.
Yes. Yes, sir. Just till then, I will continue with the your introduction, sir. Introduction part.
Here.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Um, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Nishant Payal. He is being awarded the Naropa Fellowship of rupees 10 lakhs. It is a fellowship program which focuses on creating and nurturing agents of change who will work towards fostering an ecosystem of entrepreneurship and growth. Mr. Nishant Payal is a postgraduate in pharmacy and a postgraduate in entrepreneurship leadership. He's he has work experience of more than 15 years in the capacity of manager in various pharmaceutical companies like Maclodius, Alchem, Oakhart, and also with TCS. Now I request Mr. Nishant Payal sir to guide students on demystifying entrepreneurship to clarify everything about entrepreneurship. Thank you, sir. It's up to you now, sir.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for providing me this opportunity to, interact with student and share my experience with them. I am having a little bit of issues with my presentation settings. Just give me a couple of minutes so that I
Yes,
can
sir.
resolve that.
Definitely.
So, is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So, good afternoon, everybody, and I would like to again thanks the management of Tuli Institute of Hotel Management to provide me this opportunity to interact with you students and share with you my experience, my professional experience in entrepreneurship, as well as my other professional experience prior to that. So, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, let me introduce myself. As Sir told, I did my bachelor's and master's in pharmacy, and after that, I have worked for more than 10 to 12 years in healthcare industry, outsourcing technology. My last assignment was with Tata Consultancy Services, where I was involved in, delivering business to the clients, pitching for business with the clients in life sciences sector, and responding to request for proposal. That is what you call tender in common language, and acquiring the business, participating with defense meetings. And apart from that, one aspect which was of innovation, like Tata Consultancy Services being a digital technology company, our main focus was building digital applications for addressing pain points of the clients in the area of life science industry. So we leverage technology, that is artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things, blockchain, etc., to address their pain points, so as to mm, provide automation services, so to reduce the repetitive task that we have to do to increase efficiency and productivity. After that, I parallelly, like I was also doing a lot of volunteering in the Himalayan region. I have worked with Tata Trust in Himlapas to provide
हाँ एक नंबर
leveraging
सब्जी
to.
बनी.
So I was working with Tata Trust in their
सब्जी एक
entrepreneurship,
नंबर बनी.
social entrepreneurship sector in Uttarakhand Himalayas. It was very near to now where this landslide and avalanche has taken place. So there I was working with them, leveraging tourism for generation livelihoods for the people of the villages. Also, I have had a short stint with Global Himalayan Expeditions. This company is working on solar power projects and other renewable energy resources in the remote villages of Himalayas, in Ladakh, in Sikkim, etc. And they are providing solar energy for lighting up the monasteries, remote villages. Far away villages like 14,000 feet, 18,000 feet के जो villages होते हैं जहाँ कोई electricity road वोड नहीं होती है, तो यहाँ पे since there are no roads and all that, infrastructure वहाँ जाता नहीं है, so I was working on project with them to provide electricity to those villages. So that was one of the startup that I worked with, and after that I started my 1 year stint with Naropa Fellowship, which is about solving the issues in the Himalayan region, because those issues in that region are very different from what we have here because of the climatic conditions. It's very cold over there right now. It is minus 15 degrees. So they have, water gets frozen over there. So if you want to have water for drinking or for bath, it gets frozen. So you have to heat it up. So that is one challenge. Then uh, there's lack of oxygen over there because it is a region devoid of trees. So that poses another problem for people coming on there. So there are different kind of these problems which affects the agriculture as well. So solving those issues with technology, that was a prime aspect of this entrepreneurship. So having said that, now I would like to proceed to a presentation wherein we will discuss in brief what is entrepreneurship and what are the different concepts that an entrepreneur has to deal with, so that when you venture on your journey for entrepreneurship, you will have some kind of idea about what it is about. So before that, if we can have, sir, a poll, like how many people here want to pursue entrepreneurship after their graduation? Uh, can we have this kind of a poll?
Yes, sir. Just a minute. I will have to prepare it then.
Never mind. Then if you can put it in comment itself.
Yeah. Students, you can put it into your chat box. Students,
Unfortunately,
you can
I'm not
put
able
your answer into the chat box. What sir had asked.
Unfortunately, sir, I'm not able to see the chat box. If you can tell me the result.
Sir, here at the bottom you can see there is a option chat, or even you can go to more. Many times it don't used to show when we are sharing the screen. More option is there. You just click on the click over there. The three dots are given. There it will show chat. Students, you just so you just display the slide on which the question was mentioned.
No, I didn't mention the question. The thing is, I just asked it verbally.
Yeah.
So why I'm asking this question is like, beforehand, when people are at your age, that in their graduation, I believe that most of the people are doing the graduation, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So when you are in your graduation, you are not very worried about what you want to do later in life. I mean, some people are, some people might not be. And once you pass your final year, then probably you think about let's try this because somebody is trying. Then you come in contact with entrepreneurs and all, and you think whether I can do it. But then there are a lot of misconceptions floating also. Like some people say that uh, entrepreneur is only for tech-based people because it is easy for technology people to do it, and for rest of them it is very difficult. Then there is some conception that we need money to be an entrepreneur. Funding कहाँ से लाएंगे? Then there is another question कि guidance कहाँ से मिलेगा? Business start करना तो कोई easy नहीं है, especially after COVID. It is very difficult to launch your own startup because you can see a lot of startups getting shut down. So these also questions are there, and that is why people do get youngsters do get bogged down, and they feel that it is better not to venture in this field. So that is why I asked this question, and I wanted to see, like, after completing this session, if we can see that there is a change in how many of the students you feel whether you can do it or not. So, anyways, I'll proceed with this presentation. So let's see what is the difference first between a businessman and an entrepreneur. We have seen a lot of business, like go outside in the market. There are a lot of business. There are people who run lodges, who run medicinal shops, people who run some laundry business, etc. So you might think, ki, how is this different from being an entrepreneur? Because business तो ये भी है, business तो वो भी है. You earn money through this also, you earn money through that as well. But then let me tell you that a normal businessman, what he does is he works on an existing idea, right? A very tried and trusted idea. So there is no risk in it because it has been tried and tested for n number of times. And the motive behind doing this business, be it a laundry service, be it a restaurant or a hotel, is to earn a profit, right? He wants to earn his livelihood. And that makes him one of the players in the market. So he's just one of the many members who is trying to earn a crunch of the share. You know, like for example, if you can say that laundry market in Nagpur is 100 crores, so you probably might want to earn, for example, like a small share of 50 lakhs or 75 lakhs out of that yearly. So that is what your main aim is. Similarly, if you want to open a lodge, it is also a very tried and tested way of doing business, right? I mean, there is no risk in it. You have people have already tried it, so you can easily do it. And lodges have been built since centuries. I mean, in Middle Ages, they were known as sarai. Even if you go to North India, there are many places which are known as this sarai, that sarai. So sarai means a lodge. So this business of opening a lodge is pretty common and a very normal business. And they have been opened in all the places, in hill stations, in towns, in cities, and hotels are there. 5-star hotels are there. 3-star hotels are there. And if you go to a place like Manali or Ladakh or any hill station, say Mahabaleshwar, you will find that there are a lot of hotel chains, right? And these chains are running and they are employing the profit. But now, when does entrepreneur come into the picture? So, entrepreneur is a person who is a problem solver. So he does not work on an existing idea. In fact, he sees a problem in a particular place or a geography or a particular society, and he wants to solve that problem. And how does he do it? He does it through a revolutionary idea or a disruptive idea. So disruptive idea is bringing complete change in existing system. For example, if you take example of ATMs, when ATMs were not there, people used to go to the bank and withdraw cash, and that was the way we always withdraw our cash. But bringing ATM was a disruptive change. You could go anytime to ATM and withdraw our cash as much as cash we want. So that is called disruption. And an entrepreneur is a risk taker because he deals with a new idea, a new concept. There's a certain amount of risk involved. Of course, that is a calculated risk, but it is a risk however. Another thing is he's people or customer oriented because he is a problem solver. So he tries to understand what the problem is and tries to solve it and earn profit for himself and serve the society. So that way, he is a problem solver or people oriented and customer oriented person. Then he is a market leader, right? Because he is trying to solve a problem which has not been solved many times by anyone else. So when he finds a solution for that, he is a market leader in that particular segment. So that gives him a particular edge over others because he can create a monopoly in that. So let us look at an example of lodges, what I was saying earlier. So you can see in Manali and Ladakh or any other hill station you might have been to, that there are a lot of hotel chains, and these hotel chains earn a lot of revenue, and these revenue goes to multinational chains or big companies. But what about the local people over there? वहाँ का जो local बंदा है, उसको क्या मिल रहा है? He can only work in these hotels or any shops or dhabas and earn a little bit of money, right? He cannot earn sufficient or he can't live a better lifestyle because he doesn't have a proper education so that he can go to cities or he can be a manager in that hotel chain industry. So then he has a problem of livelihood, right? That is the problem we have identified, that he is not able to earn proper livelihood in this place. Also, you can see that in hotel industry or hotel chains or lodges, people don't get to see the exact culture of the place. Now, if you go to Uttarakhand or say Himachal or Maharashtra, if a person comes, he's not a Maharashtrian, he comes, and if he stays in a hotel, will he get to know the exact culture of the place? No, because he will not get to see a typical Maharashtrian house in older times. जो वाड़ा हमारा रहता था वो कैसा था वो उसे देखने को नहीं मिलेगा. What is the food that we eat in a typical Maharashtrian home, or if he goes to say Himachal, what is the typical food that Himachali people eat? He will not get to understand that. So he will not get to know the culture. People, when tourists will go to that place, they will just roam around, take pictures of beautiful lakes, mountains, etc., and then come back. So now here the entrepreneur comes in. What he has identified is a problem that people are not getting to see the culture of the place. They are not getting an opportunity to have eat the cuisine of that place. They are not getting an opportunity, and the locals are not getting an opportunity to earn their livelihoods. So what he can do is he can create a network of the homestays. Or if somebody is from a hotel management industry, he can train these people in the villages in Mahabaleshwar or Manali or Ladakh and train them to create homestays, beautiful homestays in a typical architecture of that place, and so that they can provide proper cuisine of that place, Manali का खाना जो भी हो या लद्दाख का जो भी delicacies हो या महाराष्ट्रियन delicacies हो, कोकण की delicacies या विदर्भ की delicacies हो, वो उसका घर वो उस तरह से डेकोरेट करेगा कि it is traditional house, traditional furniture, etc. so that people get an authentic feel when they come to this place. Now, when he aggregates, like if you say you create an aggregation of 15 homestays in Himachal, and you put that on a website, you launch a website, you put these 15 homestays on this website, and you create a way of booking for these homestays where people like me who are sitting in, say, Nagpur, they can, at the click of a website, they can book their homestay for a weekend and they can go and enjoy there. So now what you are doing is you are solving the problem of a customer, because customer like me, when I was in Sikkim last year, I was doing a survey for homestays company, and what we found out that people don't want to go into homestays. You know, basically tech guys, from IBM or TCS or any tech company for that matter, because or even non-tech company, they might not want to go to a homestay because they don't know what kind of services will be offered. वहाँ पे comfort रहेगा कि नहीं, food hygienic रहेगा कि नहीं, safe रहेगा कि नहीं. So these are the concerns. So then if you create a portal, proper website, Airbnb kind of a website, and you put these posters, photos over there, and you connect with the local guy, you share the kind of food that will be available on the website, etc. And of course, you have already trained these homestay people to deliver good hygienic hospitality services. So their business will grow. The local people will earn money, right? And you can also have a share, say 15% of share of every customer or every deal that they are making. So that in that way, you will be able to earn money. You will be able to provide business to the local people, and you will be able to have a cultural exchange with the people from the city as well as from these areas. So there you are solving a problem of livelihood generation, which is one of the better livelihood generation, is one of the sustainable development goals of United Nations, and you will be having cultural exchange. So this is way how a businessman is different from an entrepreneur. So then we come to another concept, which is intrapreneur. Now, what is an intrapreneur? So intrapreneur is basically a person who is doing entrepreneurship within an organization, within a big organization like Google, or you might say Microsoft. So he's starting something, a new department or a new cell within his company. So he's not independent, because an entrepreneur, like the example I gave you of a homestay creator just now. So he will be an entrepreneur, right? He is his own boss. He has very good freedom because he doesn't have anybody sitting on his head. He doesn't have any boss. But then again, he has risk because he doesn't have resources. So he has to have his own funding, or he has to have funding from some angel investors, etc. But an intrapreneur, he is working in the organization. So he's part of the organization. He's an employee of that organization. So he will have less freedom because whatever he does, all those actions are defined by the policies of that organization. So supposedly, if you want to say create something out of plastic, I mean, it's not very healthy to create something out of plastic. But if you want to create some items out of plastic, but if your company says that no, we don't have a policy of creating something out of plastic, we are against plastic, so then you will be restricted. On the other way around, if the company says, okay, you have this furniture, so you want furniture for your new setting up this venture. So why don't you use plastic chairs or something plastic furniture? But you yourself, you don't believe in using plastic, right? Because plastic is not good for environment. So you will say, no, I want something wooden furniture because plastic is not good for the environment. But then wooden furniture would be costly, so you are not getting the funds from the company. They say, no, we cannot, we don't have this budget, and you will have to manage in plastic. So then you have to go against what your values are, right? You will have to go with plastic or whatever other material they choose. So then your freedom is restricted, but your risk is less because you are getting funds from the company, you are getting resources from the company, and even if you are not able to sell the new product that you are developing for your company, you will still have your salary, right? So that is one of the differences. Again, both of these people, an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur, both will use innovative ideas, and make innovative products. But an entrepreneur will be a game changer. Like he will change the scenario completely. As I told you about the homestay, Airbnb kind of a website for homestays. So it will be a game changer for the people of that hill station or that local area. Whereas an entrepreneur will be creating a value. He will be adding a new product to the organization and generating profits for them. He will have less risk than entrepreneur. The entrepreneur will have more freedom. And the entrepreneur will have a company's culture as his challenge because he will have to, report to various bosses in different departments. So he will have limited freedom. Now, we can see that what are the requirements of an entrepreneur. So, like when I was in college and somebody told me like business करते हैं, तो मेरे दिमाग में आता था यार उस टाइम मेरी इंग्लिश उतनी अच्छी नहीं थी, तो यार आई एम नॉट वेरी गुड एट कम्युनिकेटिंग, या फिर आई डोंट हैव स्पेशलाइज्ड डिग्री, आई एम जस्ट अ ग्रेजुएट, या I did my graduation in Amravati, so probably that thought was also there कि यार I'm in a rural setting or a semi-urban setting, so यहाँ पे business उतना चलेगा कि नहीं. But frankly telling you, all these things don't matter in entrepreneurship. Do you need a specific language? English, French? No. Working knowledge of English in India is good to set up any enterprise. Do you need a specialized degree like a specialized degree from say IIM or Harvard, say MBA or a Stanford? No, you do not need that. Your basic educational degree, what graduation you have, that is also enough. And again, the question is, do you need a certain setting? Like, do you need to be in Silicon Valley, which is the startup hub of the world, or do you need to be in Bangalore, which is a startup hub for India? So again, answer is no. Because even though, Bangalore or Silicon Valley might offer you a lot of options in terms of co-founders, there may be a lot of mentors available, there may be a lot of technical people who will be able to guide you over there. You will be able to meet a lot of different people and have exchange of ideas, etc. But that doesn't prevent you from doing anything in any other place, because nowadays, since this 1 year, because of COVID, everyone is doing their events online. So again, this place or location, which was a hurdle earlier, now it is no more a hurdle because people are accepted this way of life, a virtual way of life. So again, that will not be a very big hurdle in your goal. So we have said that since we don't need all these things, then what does an entrepreneur need? So passion, perseverance, and persistence. These are the most important things that are required in any entrepreneurship. Because unless and until you have these 3 P's in you, you won't survive for long. Because an entrepreneurial journey is a roller coaster. There will be highs, there will be lows. There will be sometimes nothing will happen. You will reach a plateau where everything will be statutory. So at that time, you need your passion to go through. Now, supposedly, if a friend comes of mine and he said, "Yeah, let's do something in edtech, education technology." There are a lot of startups. White Hat Junior is coming, Byju's is coming. So this sector is really growing. Now let's start something in that sector. Let's create a website where we can have some courses, where we can deliver some courses to kids or college students. Entrepreneurship. Let's start a online course on entrepreneurship. But if the problem is I am not very passionate about education, I am passionate about tourism, supposedly, for example. And what will happen is initially I'll be okay, but once the work pressure starts increasing, the revenue starts decreasing, I will feel the heat, and I'll say, "यार नहीं यार, ये तो मुझसे नहीं होगा. I will not be able to do it." So, if you want to sustain continuously for a long period of time in highs as well as in lows, you will have to select a field which you are passionate about, and also you need some technical know-how about that area. Then comes empathy. What is empathy? So empathy is being in the shoes of your customer or somebody else. So you need to, if you want to solve a problem for society, then you need to feel that problem. You need to understand the nitty-gritties of that problem. Only then you will be able to provide a solution to it, right? So that is, you have to empathize with your customer. If you are a very short guy and you are designing a small car for a company, now you won't understand what problem a tall guy, 6 foot, 6.5 foot guy will face while he's sitting in this car. He will be cramped, right? But you won't understand that because your height is supposedly, for example, 5 feet 3 inch. So a person like me, I won't understand the problem of a tall guy, right? So then I won't be able to empathize with him. But then again, while designing this car, small car, I need to take into consideration what fat guy might have a problem, oversized guy might have a problem, what a tall guy might have a problem in sitting in this car. So I'll need voice of customer from each and every person, kind of person in the society, tall, short, thin person, overweight person, so that I will be able to deliver a proper product. Then a dreamer spirit is also important. So if you want to deliver something which is out of this world, you need to dream, you need to think, and you need to give yourself that space so that your thoughts can wander into that direction. Because you sometimes have to step back and see the larger picture to deliver, something which is out of the world. Otherwise, then you won't be able to notice the larger picture, and what you create might not be very helpful for everybody. And another important quality is taking advice. So because you are creating something for a customer, you need to take advice from different people, because there are mentors who have worked in that field for 10 years or 12 years. So they might give you some valuable advice. There will be customers who might add some edge to your product. So you always have to be attentive to listening to people and taking their advices. And education. So do you need any particular degree or an MBA or a degree from IIT? No, you don't need that. But you need education in a sense that now, if you are in a hospitality industry, you need to keep yourself updated about what are the latest things that are happening in hospitality industry. What are the regulations that are coming in? Now, supposedly there are some seminars that are happening, and you need to go to these conferences, seminar, and update yourself about the new techniques, new technology, new concepts that are being brought into the industry. So that is what education is about. And also you need to learn from your day-to-day activities, whatever is happening. You need to understand it day in, day out, so that you can implement it. Because if you don't learn from what you're doing, if you don't learn from the mistakes, then an entrepreneur is bound to fail. And there are cases where a lot of entrepreneurs have failed. So failing is a part of this process, because you learn from your failures and then you apply those things in your next venture and you succeed. Then flexibility. Flexibility is one of the most important aspects that an entrepreneur should have, because you see that circumstances are always changing. Like example, when Corona was there, life was totally different. But after Corona came, a lot of businesses, they went out of business, right? Because you can say hotel industry, it went out of business. There are a lot of others. Education went for a toss because people were not able to go to their classes, their colleges. So, like a lot of educational institutes were facing this problem whether they will be able to enroll children for the next academic year or not. So you need to be very flexible in your approach to your project or your idea, because there are a lot of regulatory changes coming up. The situation is changing, market is changing. I'll give you an example. There is one company which launched its ice cream cone, and they were doing pretty well, chocolate, strawberry, and other flavors. But when Corona came, nobody was interested in eating ice cream because people were scared, right? कि भाई आइसक्रीम खाने से infection न हो जाए. So what they did is they they pivoted their idea. Pivoting is like changing your product as per the requirements of the customer and the market conditions. That is what called pivoting. So they pivoted their product and they launched a strawberry cream or a chocolate cream in the same cone, which was not ice cream. You know, so it was just chocolate and some normal cream, which is not frozen ice cream. And they are doing well. I mean, not as good as they were doing in ice cream cones, but these chocolate cones or strawberry cones, they are doing very pretty well. So they adapted to the situation and they changed their product. So that is what a good entrepreneur needs to do. So let's go to the next slide. Now, since I told you that education doesn't matter, language doesn't matter, race doesn't matter, let's see some of the examples of how how a lot of different entrepreneurs from different places, from different educational backgrounds, they delivered in their business. So here is an example of Sattus, which is a product launch in Madhubani, that is Bihar. Now we all know Sattu Sapit, right? There's nobody, I guess, in Maharashtra who doesn't know Sattu Sapit or Sattu. In central India, it is a very good diet for breakfast. Sattu is considered, and even the famed Maratha warriors or the Mauryan warriors, they ate Sattu during their war campaigns. Now here is a guy, Sachin Kumar, and co-founders Richa Kumari. They launched this. They were thinking of, the market is flooded with carbonated drinks, which are not healthy, right? We all know that. So what can we give to the people as an alternative nutritious diet? And they came up with this idea of sattus, which is a flavored sattu drink. So there are three flavors in that: jaljeera, chocolate, and sweet lime. And it's just a powder. So you have to mix it with water, and you have to stir it and drink it. And they give it at a sachet of like 20 rupees per sachet, and 120 rupees is the cost of the box. And it is hygienic, it is gluten free, it is vegan, and it is completely preservative free. So that is a very good product, and it is right now just being sold in Bihar and Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, some areas of Chhattisgarh. So they have been in this business for 24 months, and the initial capital they put in was 10 lakhs. And they got this capital by bootstrapping and from friends, family, etc. And right now they are doing a business of around 1.25 lakhs. So it's a great idea, right? They also got a soft loan from IIM Calcutta and funding from Indian Angel Funding and Bihar Industry Association. Then there is another founder who is based out of Bihar. So her name is Shazia Kaiser, and she has a degree in physiotherapy and health education. And she started this shoe laundry in Patna. And it as you can see, it does cleaning, polishing, stitching, sole pasting, changing, all these things of any leather items, be it shoes, be it leather bags. It can be, your leather jackets, etc., color correction, patchwork, anything. And they have a 24-hour service, and they take orders online. And once they patch your product, they deliver it. So I mean, this is a rural setting, and look at her education. She is not even from leather industry, right? She has done this physiotherapy course, but she found a problem that there is a scope for this kind of industry here in Patna, and she launched it. And now she in fact won an award from IILM for sustainable business, and she got incubation at an incubation center, Bhanushali, and she also got financial assistance. So that is a great concept she has got. So there was no need of education because she did not have a leather education in leather industry. She was not in any metro town, and there is no language problem here as well. This is another photo of this shoe laundry. So it was started in 2014, and she invested 16 lakhs initially with help from friends and families. And market focus currently is only Bihar, and she earns around 1.5 lakhs average on a month. Then let us look at another startup, that is Stage 4. So this is started in Udaipur. So this guy Nikhilesh Tayal, he left his job in IT industry and started CV Bhejo in Rajasthan. So CV Bhejo is a kind of Naukri.com of Rajasthan, you can say. It was started in 2011 somewhere, but it shut down in October 2013. Initially, they got very good offers from recruiters. They got a lot of CVs in Rajasthan, and it was doing well. But somewhere, what happened is it could not scale it up. Like scale means increasing from one city to another city, 3 cities, 4 cities. So he could not do that because he did not find any payers over there. So ultimately, he had to shut it down. But he continued. I mean, he did not give up. And later, he combined his passion in theater and he came up with Stage 4. Stage 4 now, what it does is it delivers market for independent movie makers. And currently, it has listed over 200 filmmakers across India and it has closed to around 30 deals in just 7 months. And he charges a 10% commission for every deal that is made on Stage 4 website. So he says that if investors see a scalable business model and an efficient team, then location does not really matter. And of course, his business is not growing as fast as some of the business that we have seen in Ola and Uber, etc. But still, he is growing, and he's growing steadily. Then we have another entrepreneur from Junjunu. So now see the names of the places. Nobody would identify these places with enterprises or big startups, but they are happening there. So this guy, he started an online test preparation portal. Of course, he did get money from his family, quite an awesome amount that he got, but still, it was very difficult to start in a small town in Rajasthan with an online portal. And again, there's an example of this lady, Sharwani Pawar. So she started this Safe Hands 24/7 in Hubli, Karnataka. And she supplies women security guards to different organizations. And it was founded in 2009. And even though her profit margins are less, but the kind of service she's able to deliver to the society and she's able to help women, she feels that it makes it worth. Now, this is another venture that is Pune On. So this is this is close to my heart because I was involved in starting this venture in Pune. Of course, I did not mention it much because I was not involved full time over here. And this is a problem that we or all the people who love to eat food, they have, right? So we want to eat 5-star dishes. I mean, we people who are not from the hospitality industry. So we have this idea of let's eat this dish or let's eat that dessert. And in colleges or when we just started on our jobs, we don't get to eat these delicacies, right? Because normal hotel chains don't serve these kind of products. So the main purpose of this Pune On was delivering 5-star food at affordable pricing and with the same presentation that you find in a 5-star hotel. So we launched it in Baner in Pune, and you can see it's a garden restaurant kind of thing. And the prices of say lasagna. So if lasagna cost at around 1800 in Taj Hotel or Oberoi, we provided it here at 350 rupees. So that's a very big price margin, right? And the chef who made it was not any local chef. He was working in Oberoi. So Girish Patil was our chef over there, and Nilesh Kharabe was the founder, one of the co-founders for this cafe. We bought some celebrities here to popularize our product, and it was going very well. Now, unfortunately, we had to shut it down because a couple of things that we did wrong in this project were we did not anticipate the risk. Now this is very important. When you have a startup, you need to anticipate what risks, what regulatory problems, what financial problems, what calamities, natural calamities can come. So We ran it very well till around say 1 year, because he put 17 lakhs over here in this venture, and we broke even in 7 months, just 7 months, you can imagine. But unfortunately, what happened that a metro project started running from the near the entrance of the restaurant, and there was a lot of dust floating around in the air, and there was a lot of workers here and there. So the ambience of the place was lost. And another problem was we did not digitally market this product very well. So nowadays, if you can see, digital market is very important, because all of us, all of the younger generation is on Facebook, on WhatsApp, and on Instagram. So that plays a very important role, and we did not do it properly. So this is one of the learnings that we got from this venture. So we did a lot of good market research. We had uh, IT tech park over here. There were colleges over here. There were offices over there. So this was a very good place to launch this kind of setup. But unfortunately, because of this metro project, and even if the metro project had not come, the corona would have surely taken a toll on the project. So we had to shut it down. So this could be a very good case study for if you want to launch a cafe or something. Now we come to what is called at validating your idea. So uh, all of us say that मेरे पास ये idea है, मेरे पास वो idea है, क्यों ना ये app बनाते हैं. But actually, idea is worthless. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of ideas, and it will take you nowhere unless and until you have a proper execution plan. Executing your idea is very important. The way you execute it. And many people think that मैं अपनी idea किसके साथ share नहीं करूँगा. I mean, how many of us think, right? Even I was thinking like that earlier. So that is the worst part, I'll tell you. Because sharing your idea, if you share it with somebody who is an expert in that field, he can give you a lot of, share his own experience, and he can then validate your idea. If he is agree to that idea, he's ready to invest in that idea, that means your idea is validated. And of course, you can get different opinion from customers also. If you share it with probable customer, he will give you his opinion on that idea. So that will again, you will be able to refine your product with this idea. Also, if you share it with a person who is working on some project, and if he drops that project and wants to join you in your idea, that means your idea is again validated. So these are different ways of validating your idea. And if somebody is thinking that I won't want to share my idea because I feel that some big company will take my idea and they will launch their product and I will be left nowhere. But that doesn't happen, because big companies always have their own roadmap, and they are behind an established idea. They will probably go for an established idea rather than a new venture which is being set up. So you always should share your idea and get feedback on whether that idea, whether what problem you are solving that is genuine, whether it will have any commercial impact, whether you can generate money with that idea. So to get answers to all these questions, you should share your idea. And here are some of the questions that will tell you whether your idea is valid or not. So what are the key features of your product or service? What is unique about your product or service? Then again, you need to have assumptions. So like when we were working for an organization who wanted to work for tourism in Sikkim, so they wanted volunteering tourism, like working in an apple orchard in Himachal Pradesh, or if you want to work for 15 days or a month in orange orchard, if you want to teach in a school in Ladakh, and and travel as well. So when you volunteer there, you obviously get an opportunity to travel. So the food and the and accommodation is provided to you by this volunteering organization. So if I am providing a volunteering opportunity to a person, like somebody is in Israel, so a lot of Israelis do come to Ladakh and in Himachal during their vacations, and they look for volunteering options. Volunteering farms, volunteering in dairies, etc., doing meditation, doing yoga in Rishikesh. So they like this kind of ideas. So
this is one of the business model. Now we wanted to check whether this business model was valid. So we assume that a person from Israel or Europe would be okay to come to Ladakh or Himachal for 1 month, and he will be able to pay something around say 25,000 for his stay, accommodation, etc. So that is an assumption we have, right? So unless and until we get a survey done from various people in Europe, etc., or US or Australia, and get their opinion, we have not validated that assumption, right? So it is important to validate your assumption. Just making your assumptions, if you don't validate, then you are bound to fall flat. Now we will look at another aspect, that is design thinking. So many people say that no, design, this is related to apparel, or this is related to clothing, or this is related to probably animation, etc. But design thinking is a part of each and every industry, because it's an approach of problem solving. And as an entrepreneur, what you are doing is you're going to solve a problem, right? So what are the main principles of design thinking? So one is empathize. As in, I told you, you need to understand what the problem or the issue is if you want to solve the problem. Then define. So you need to clearly define the problem. That okay, the livelihood of the people is the problem here. Then, after defining the problem, you need to brainstorm on what can be the potential solution. So, like when I gave you an example of homestay, we identified the problem was livelihood generation for the local people in the Himalayan region or in any rural area, right? So then what are the probable solutions? That these people have land, these people have houses, old houses, and what other resources do you have which can contribute to earn the money? So then we zeroed down on a homestay. So similarly, you have to brainstorm and ideate a solution. And then you have to develop a prototype. So if you want to develop, you will have to first develop a prototype of a homestay. You will have to train a homestay owner that, okay, this is the training I'm going to provide you. I'll call people from Tulis Institute of Hotel Management. They will train you in how to do housekeeping, how to do hospitality, how to serve food to international guests. So that is the way you will develop a complete homestay, and that will be your prototype. And then you further develop it based on testing with customers, etc., and you will develop it into a full-fledged product. So we will able to take an Airbnb case study here. So Airbnb, when it was initially launched, now Airbnb is making billions of dollars, right? They have a portal wherein you can book your home in any part of the world, and you can stay there for 15, 20 days, and you can enjoy tourism in that place, and you can come back. So they don't have any property, their own property. All their properties are of local people, and they have put that on the website. We all know that, right? But in the initial stages, Airbnb was not even able to generate $200 to $300. So can you imagine that? And why? What is the reason? So they were having all these charts and maps, and they were looking at this thing that why business is not happening, and they were not able to find any answers. So then they went to the customers and asked the customers that why you don't want to stay in our places. They realized that the photographs which they had put on the website were very shabby, and they were not at all attractive. So when a customer, he found out, okay, like in Spain, if I want to visit Barcelona, what is the place that I will visit? And let's see what options are there, what staying options are there. So if he'll swipe on his phone, he found out one apartment, but the pictures of that apartment were so pathetic. I mean, they were not tempting that the person will want to go and stay there. That is the result. They realized the fault, that the pictures were not professionals. So then what they did is they took professional photographers, they went to these places, and they captured professional photographs, beautiful pictures, and then they posted these pictures on their website. And once they did that, within weeks they started getting a lot of calls from um, travelers and tourists that they wanted to stay in these apartments. So that is how they adopted the design thinking approach. They went to the depth of the problem, understood it, articulated the problem, and found out a solution. Now let's look at what is prototype, because we talked about prototype, right? So there are three steps. when you try to build a product or a service, one is the proof of concept, that whether the idea is feasible or not. So you generate a proof on the paper, right? This is the problem statement. This is how we will. This is our solution, and this is the way the solution will deliver the result. And then there is a prototype. So prototype is like, supposedly, if the product you are building, you will just have a simple model of that product or service that you will show to the customer. And based on that, when you get the feedback of your customers, then you will design a minimal viable product. So minimal viable product is just a product where you will test the basic functions, whether your product will be able to deliver the needs of the customer. So for example, if you see this donut here, it is a picture of a donut. So that is your prototype or your proof of concept. And this is your minimal viable product, right? So it does not have any garnishing, it does not have any added sugar, nothing. It's basic simple product. And then once you give it for testing, then people will tell you, oh, this needs a little bit of garnishing, this needs a little bit of sugar coating, etc., cream, and then you, based on that feedback, you will again go to your kitchen and then you will come out with this product, this final. So this prototype that this prototype that I have shown here is a prototype of an app, a food delivery app. So that is McDonald's probably. So it's a prototype of McDonald's. So this is how the app of McDonald's for food delivery will look. And once, so they will have links of, click here and get the order, etc. And they will do that. And then once the prototype is okay, they will have a minimal viable product. So in case of McDonald's, this is the MVP. They will have basic products. So like there's French fries, there is Coca-Cola, and there's this burger. So once this MVP is okay and the customer gives you a good feedback on the MVP, then you go for your complete service. So when you pitch to the customer for funding, right? Because if you have your own enterprise, you will go through these stages, building a prototype, then building a minimal viable product. Once you build this minimum viable product, you will participate in competitions, speaking events, where there are investors and they fund your projects if they like the projects. So you will need to have a minimum viable product to get funding. So that is very essential. Here's another prototype generation. Here what happens if a person had generated a prototype, sketch prototype of a plier or a dummy prototype. But ultimately that does not solve your problem, because if you want to go to a manufacturing, you need a full scale actual size of a prototype. Because now see, when he designed his final product based on this sketch, but here he is getting a pinch. You can see the picture, product is faulty because he designed it on only a sketch and he directly made a final product. Now this product is faulty and it is giving him injury. So imagine if this is such kind of product is launched into the market, there will be such a big loss of efforts and money and all that. You will have to, your reputation will be lost. You will have to have product recall and all that. So after having seen all this, okay, in the meanwhile, does anybody have any questions? If not, then I'll proceed ahead. So let's see what are the benefits of being an entrepreneur. So one is you get a flexible schedule. I mean, you can work till 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the night, and you can probably go late a little bit at 10 or 11 in the office and work. But if you are doing a job, you will not be able to do that, right? Even if you have to work at 3 o'clock past midnight, again the next morning at 9:30 you will have to go to the office. And align with your values. So as we discussed earlier, that if the company wants you to make products from plastic, but you yourself don't feel like using plastic because you are environment conscious person. So, but if you're working or doing a job, then it won't help. Karna hi padega, right? So being an entrepreneur, you have this opportunity. No, I'll not make product out of plastic. I'll make that out of bamboo. So then you can have your own call, right? You are your own master. And there's constant growth and development. So in a job, what happens is after a certain stage, your salary doesn't grow. Then you will switch the company, right? But वहाँ पे भी there is a new environment, then there is new culture, new challenges, and after a certain, even in IT industry, if you see after the age of 40, everybody doesn't get big fat paychecks, right? And there is a, of course, there is a problem that you might be removed from your service because of situations like Corona, etc. You might be laid off. But when you are an entrepreneur, you have this always constant opportunity of growth and development, and growth at the speed what you like. Not there's nobody to decide whether you are doing 5 projects or 10 projects or 15 projects. So it is on your own. You can decide. Then there's autonomy, as I told you. You are your own master. Then you get to choose the kind of people. So if you're working in a job, uh, I mean, the management will select the employees, right? So you have to work with them. If you, whether you like them, whether you find them very dull, or whether you find them slow, or whether you find them uh, anxious, or whatever, you have to work with them. But here, when you are an entrepreneur, you get to decide your team. Then there is thrill and excitement. Like there's no other profession than entrepreneurship where you have this kind of thrill and excitement. Because every day is different. There are a lot of challenges coming up, and it's a roller coaster. Then the kind of offices. So if you see this kind of office, there are a lot of people who are digital nomads. So they are freelancers, but again, that is also an entrepreneurship. You are working on your own, and you can go and sit anywhere with your laptop and write codes or do project management. Uh, there are a lot of these kind of opportunities, freelancing opportunities right now. So that is also a part kind of entrepreneurship. Then you get to be a leader like Elon Musk, or you can say Steve Jobs. So if you are in a job, you won't have that many opportunities to be a leader like these guys. One in 1,000 or 10,000 people will get to be a CEO of a company like TCS or say Wipro, but other rest of them will be employees. Right? You won't be a leader. I mean, of course, these companies obviously do give you options to be leaders, but as an entrepreneur, you will have much better options to be a leader than working for any other organization. But now the question you will have is, okay, ये सब तो ठीक है, but help कहाँ से मिलेगा? हमें guide कौन करेगा? Who will guide us to be entrepreneurs? So help is available, guys. So there are a lot of incubators available. Like in our own Vidarbha region, these 3 incubators are there. Like Utkarsh of Punjab Rao Deshmukh Krishi Vidyapit, which deals with agriculture. There's INFED from IIM Nagpur, and there is Nagpur University Business Incubation Center. PSRI का नीरी का incubation center है. And incubation center is actually there to reduce the chances of failure for early stage startups. It helps you economically and to grow. And provides a lot of infrastructure support. Most of these incubators, they provide you free infrastructure like internet facilities, sitting facility, cafeteria. So being a startup, you won't obviously have these facilities, right? It will cost money. So here you are getting it at very reduced cost or free of cost. Then credibility. If you are incubated at some incubation center, it will add credibility to your startup. It will get media attention. You get traction. Investors will come to you. You will have various events at these incubators like demo day presentations where a lot of investors will come and they will see your presentations, and probably you might find some investor who is ready to invest in your venture, or he may join you as a founder. And also once you join an incubator, you get peer knowledge. So there are other startups over there, so they will share their experience with you, and that will help you grow as an organization. So most of these incubators need to be recognized by DPIIT, and products that you are developing in this startup should be commercially viable and scalable. Only then you can get grants from these incubators. So these incubators, they give you seed funding like 1.5 lakhs initially, and later 15 lakhs. So IIT Mandi gives that kind of incubation support. And preference is given to sectors in these startups in these sectors like education, health, social impact, waste management, water management, space research, oil and gas, etc. Then there are accelerators. So your startup may be in an initial phase, but what happens is once it is past the initial phase, now you are a little bit settled, but you want to grow, you want to accelerate, right? You want to scale, you want to become a big business. There you will need accelerators. So what does an accelerator do? So accelerator, they provide you support in the later stages of your startup. You will get access to a lot of mentors who help you. You will get direction from people who have experience in that kind of sector. So if you want to have a startup in energy, there will be mentors and supporters who will support you in energy sector. They will share their experiences with you. There will be a lot of activities happening in these accelerators. There will be demo day presentations, networking, social activities. There will be pitching events where you pitch in front of various investors. Competitions will be there, and they will give you money. You can win money out of these competitions, and you can invest it in your startup. You will get media attention because a lot of magazines, startup magazines, cover these type of events. You will get skills development because once you join the incubator, they have a 6 month program. Well, they will teach you marketing, finance, etc. So these things will help you in the longer run. Risk management, since as I told you, Corona is kind of risk. So as I told you in Pune on, we had a big risk that metro was going through there, which we somehow ignored. So these kind of risk, you will get to know how to manage this risk, how to foresee this risk. And of course, an accelerator is a lifelong support because once you join an accelerator, the contacts there, the alumni of this accelerator, they will always support you in the future. And mentoring is also there. You get to sit on a one-on-one mentoring session with the mentor of each industry. So if you are from agriculture industry, you will be assigned an investor or a mentor from an agriculture sector, and he will answer your questions, he will guide you, handhold you. He will share his contact. So if he says that, okay, for this particular thing, you need to do this experiment. So he will share his contact in any laboratory in IIT or CSIR, etc. And you can go and conduct your experiments there. You will get networking support. You will be connected over there. This we have already discussed. We can skip this slide. So how much more time do we have? Hello.
Hello.
Sir, you can continue. We have told them that it will be of 1 hour 15 minutes like that.
Okay. I'll cover it in that time then. Again, one of the concepts in entrepreneurship is you cannot go alone. I mean, you can go alone, but it is advisable you don't go alone. Because, as I told you earlier, entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. There's a lot of ups and downs, and you need somebody to discuss them. You need somebody to support you. Like if you fall ill, or if you are not able to, sometimes what you have is you have certain amount of skill. Like if you want to run a cloud kitchen, right? Now in cloud kitchen, you are from hotel management sector, but if you need somebody in the technology domain to help you build an app or a website and run it, etc., you will need somebody who knows that side, right? Because you cannot have all the skills, etc. So you will need a co-founder from technology domain who will help you with that. So and co-founder should always be there with complementary skills. I mean, you cannot have कि चलो ये मेरा दोस्त है, मेरी क्लास में पढ़ता है होटल मैनेजमेंट में, तो मैं इसको co-founder बनाता हूँ. नहीं, वैसे नहीं होता है. क्योंकि इन्वेस्टर्स जब तुम्हारे इसमें इन्वेस्ट करते हैं, तो वो तुम्हारे स्किल्स देखते हैं, तुम्हारा एजुकेशन देखते हैं, तुम्हारा बैकग्राउंड देखते हैं. तो अगर तुम होटल मैनेजमेंट में हो, तुम कोई क्लाउड किचन लॉन्च करने वाले हो, तो तुम्हारे पास फिनांस वाला बंदा है क्या, वो ये देखेंगे. तुम्हारा टेक्नोलॉजी वाला बंदा है क्या, मार्केटिंग वाला बंदा है क्या. तो चारों के चारों को-फाउंडर अगर होटल मैनेजमेंट वाले ही हों, तो फिर तुम्हें शायद इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं मिलेगा. और को-फाउंडर्स क्या है ना कि even surveys and market research has pointed out that ventures with co-founders, 3 or 4 co-founders, do much better than a solo founder venture. There are statistics available for that. And obviously, nobody will want to put his money
in a venture which is, started by a solo person and run by a solo person? What happens if that solo person runs away, or he dies, or anything can happen, right? I mean, not that it's going to happen, but if anything happens, who will risk that money on a single person? So it is always better to have 2 or 3 people team who can co-found a company. Then comes the funding part. Where do I get funding? So at the initial stage, that is called the ideation stage or pre-seed stage, one option is bootstrapping, that is self-financing. So you invest your own savings. There's no pressure to pay back because it is your own savings, but the fundings are limited. So, I mean, if you have a cash of, like, say 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs after you working for 2, 3 years, or savings from your college days, you have 50,000, you can invest that. So initially, you can have these savings and you can use that. And you don't have to share a percent of your company to anybody because it's your own money, right? Then there is friends and family. So they will fund you. We have seen a lot of examples where people have funded their ventures, like Survival was there, like Sattus was there. It was started by funding from friends and family, and they have inherent level of trust in you, so that helps. Then there are business pitching events. As I told you, there are startup weekends events where 3 days you have an opportunity to ideate a problem statement on a problem statement, build a solution, and then build a business model, and then you pitch in front of the on the people. And when the competition, they give you funding. Of course, it is small, but that funding does give you, some amount of funds to start your venture initially. Then apart from them, there is legal support available from the government. So you can get certification for labor laws compliance. IPR panel of facilitators is there to assist you in filing IP applications, and government bears the cost of your IP application for 80%. Exit procedures. So supposedly, if you are afraid that what if my business fails? So as per the new insolvency and bankruptcy bill, a startup with a simple debt structure can be wound up in 90 days, and you will be out of that venture if it fails, right? Then there are tax exemptions for up to 3 years. There are capital gain tax exemption for people investing in fund of funds, which does funding for startups. There's income tax exemption, etc. So all these facilities are there for you if you want to have a startup. We already, I guess, the yesterday's presentation on MSME already discussed these things, so we can skip it. Then your last question would be, how do I convince my parents? Of course, you will say that we have been having this series of lectures since 3 days, and I'm convinced that I want to be an entrepreneur. But how do I convince my parents? Now that is a logical question. So you have a lot of examples in front of you of the richest entrepreneurs in the world. So the richest people in the world are entrepreneurs. So look at the 10 richest entrepreneurs in the people in the world. So all of them are entrepreneurs. All of them have started something big and grown to giant proportions. Microsoft, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg. And okay, even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur for a life, but let me tell you, if after you completing your graduation, if you do a startup and it gets incubated, doesn't matter whether it stays there or if you get out of that, probably your partner will remain in that. You may exit, or probably it gets closed. But if it gets incubated or it runs smoothly for a year or so, that is a very valuable experience. Let me tell you. B schools, like big B schools, Harvard, even IIMs, etc., Indian School of Business, they look for people with entrepreneurial experience, and they will, be ready to take you on their class. Even there have been instances where a lot of people, they do they run ventures, or they do startups just to get admission in Ivy League colleges. So that opportunity is always there. And again, even if you fail by chance, if you fail in a startup, your CV will look impressive after 2 years, right? Because you have get a lot of experience, a lot of valuable experience of running a company on your own, which is not an easy task. So that experience will always count, and it is a leadership experience. And it will always be valuable if you want to gain employment later in the course of your life. So with that, I close my session here, and I hope you have had some interesting information and takeaways from this session. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Students, are you having any question? You can ask by just unmuting yourself, or even you can put your question into the chat box. Anyone among you?
I will share my email ID with sir, and you can ask your questions later on as well. If I can, I'll be ready to help you in any case. I guess there are no questions. So, okay, thank you.
Just on behalf of the students and staff of Tuli College of Hotel Management, I thank you, sir, for this session. You told us the difference between the business and entrepreneur, which we were not aware of. Even these people will be alert when a new product is to be launched, a new venture is to be launched. I hope, taking inspiration from your session, more and more students will develop themselves as entrepreneur, thus making this session fruitful. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Students, you stay back for the polls, okay? Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Students, I'm launching the poll now. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Within next 4 minutes, you will have to complete it. Those who have attempted attempted the polls, they can leave the meet.
Pritam Patel was such a important session.
I think almost all of you have finished with your voting. So I will stop the voting now. Thank you. Thanks a lot, all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.